There is a whole class of projects that are so large and complex that they require finer ways of organizing, sorting, filtering, and deciding what information to present. For such projects, it often makes sense to break them into phases. We do this partly because they are so big and complex, but also because of budget limitations, since we often cannot do everything at once with limited resources. This campus quad project, for example, with more than one building, could span over so many years that it makes it an ideal candidate for phasing. To initiate phasing, we click Phases on the Manage toolbar. There are two default phases, existing and new construction. From this dialog, we can add as many new phases as needed to complete our new construction. For our purposes, we will have phases that match the completion of each quad building. Phase 1 ends with the completion of quad building 1, and Phase 2 with quad building 2. The Phase Filter tab shows the default filters, defining how each of the phase statuses is shown, either by category, overridden, or not displayed at all. The graphic overrides contain those overrides pertaining to each of the 4 phase statuses: new, existing, demolished, and temporary. There is a time order from past to future implied here in this list, and you can edit that as needed at any point. Every object and every view in the model is associated with phases through its phase properties. As we will see later, every object is created in a certain phase and demolished in a certain phase. It is with these critical variables that we control when things appear or disappear in views. First, we're going to duplicate views in order to create separate versions of each view, each with a different phase filter that highlights or diminishes the appearance of elements based on when they were created or demolished. We'll define a Phase 1 only view, Phase 2 planning, which emphasizes the new design as opposed to the prior existing phase. And Phase 2 all, which shows the cumulative model of all current and prior phases. We'll duplicate for all plan views. And we'll do the same for 3D views. As we mentioned before, we need to assign phase properties to the elements. At the moment, everything is in Phase 1. Let's send quad building 2 into Phase 2. We'll select all and filter to make sure we didn't inadvertently grab more than we needed. And here, the last items in the instance properties are the phase properties. Let's change the phase created to Phase 2. And since this is new construction, we'll leave the phase demolished as none. It seems we didn't get all the columns. With a drag select, we can send those easily to Phase 2 as well. The only step remaining is to assign phase properties to the views themselves so that they know how to properly display the elements from each phase. The two phase properties are the phase and the phase filter. Our views named Phase 1 only will have Phase 1 as the phase, and for the filter, show previous plus new. This will show only the model elements for quad building 1. Our Phase 2 completed has Phase 2 as the phase, and show completed for the phase filter, which shows the aggregate of the current and all previous phases. Finally, Phase 2 planning has Phase 2 as the phase and show previous plus new as the phase filter. We'll see that this phase filter has overrides defined that gray out the previous phase, making the quad building 2 or the plan design more prominent. And in this way, we can better organize and visualize complex projects in separate phases. Now we're going to look at using phasing to do remodels or renovations of a simple single-family home. We'll first take a look at performing the demolition operations in order to clear the way for our new construction. I'm going to focus in here on this kitchen and breakfast area. This will be the target of our remodel. Zooming in on the first floor floor plan, we can prepare for our demolition activities. There's two methods for demolishing an element in Revit. The first is to select the item and then to go directly to its properties, where we can designate the phase demolished as renovation phase, or the phase that we're in now. For each element, I can go ahead and change that phase demolished from never to renovation. And they will disappear from the renovation floor plan, which is only showing existing or new construction. Another way is to use the shortcut Demolish tool, which does effectively the same thing, but in one single click. We can go through and click on each object and they disappear. It is, again, in the properties, it's doing the same thing, changing the property of the phase demolished to renovation. Now, before we demolish our walls, we want to split the walls to isolate out the segments of wall to be demolished. In other words, to create those wall segments, to separate the demolished part to be demolished from the part to stay. I can also demolish this wall. When I do that, you can see a new wall segment comes in to fill in that hole. That's considered new construction. Anytime I demolish a wall or window, it will fill in with the adjacent wall material. We'll go in and put some new cabinets, a new door opening under the which is under the component tool. I'm going to change that opening to be nearer to the front door in order to leave free more room in the living room for the entertainment center. What we're going to do is create a small partition wall, or half wall, of only about 3.5 feet, which is going to wrap around the kitchen and create a sort of counter and bar area. We'll create this wall out at a 45-degree angle. I can make it an arbitrary length because later I will trim it. And then another wall segment going straight down that's not at a 45-degree angle, but rather parallel to this wall down here. I can draw it first to be around 3 feet, and then I can trim it. Align it so that it aligns with this nearby kitchen wall to have a clean line. Using the trim tool, I can take off that extra segment of wall that I don't need, and there I have the wall formation I'm looking for. And in a 3D view, the 3D renovation view, we see the new construction. We're going to put some base cabinets on the kitchen side of this wall, upon which we'll put a countertop. So I'll go to my existing components and choose something called the cabinet raised door with one door, and put it on this wall, another on this other small wall, and on the angled wall I'll have room enough to put a 2-door cabinet. And upon these 3 cabinets, I'll rest a cabinet island, a kitchen island countertop. And we'll do that as a model in place component since it has a custom shape. We'll call it the island counter. And using the pick tool, it'll be a solid extrusion that I can draw using the pick tool, defining an offset of 1 inch off of the base cabinets to give us small overhang. I can draw the first base lines and later trim. There's my 1 inch overhang. Then for the others, I'll have no offset since it'll be flush to the wall. Here again, a 1 inch overhang. Great, now I'm ready to trim. TR is the shortcut. I pick the closest ends of the line that stay. To connect up gaps. And trim excess line. And make a clean loop that's closed and has no overlaps. I'll set my extrusion start to be 2 foot 10.5, which is the top of my counter, up to 3 foot. So this countertop has an elevation of 3 feet, a comfortable kitchen countertop height. We'll give it a material as countertop so that it renders well. And when I'm finally finished placing my counter, which has a counter on one side and a bar on the other, this is the final result. I've added chairs and a new kitchen table, and we see the new remodeled kitchen. That's in the 3D renovation plans. And if we go to the demolition plans, we can see in red, which is the demolition phase filter, visibility graphics filter, that everything that is demolished or removed is in red.